Time for another edition of Sharp or Square with the CCO of the Action Network, Chad Millman. Host The Favorites. You see him on the Cowherd podcast feed. All of our odds provided by FanDuel. Okay, I went 2-3. Damn Julio Jones late scratch. Jesus. All right, here we go. Cowboys win on Monday night. Standalone game, overvalued. Dallas is only averaging 15.5 points of offense a game. Washington humiliated. Philadelphia is just really good. I'm taking the points. Commanders +3, sharp or square.
Dude, that is the Commanders as a side, 100% sharp. You're nailing it. And you're nailing it for all the reasons that the wise guys would say, bet the Commanders, right? Dallas wins a dramatic game in prime time. Dallas is always inflated as it is, right? So there's going to be a little bit more value on betting whoever they play in the next week, especially if the Commanders in that next week, in the week before, got blown out by a team. And a lot of people thought the Commanders maybe could cover in that game. So you're 100% on the right team. The challenge here, and this is a nuanced thing, and as a bettor and all the time, because you're a very popular guy, there's new people listening to this podcast who may not be regular bettors. There's something called getting the best of the number. And you have to decide as a bettor, as you are deciding now, where is the value? And so, yes, the Commanders are still the right side, but this game was at 5.5. So
I know.
You're not getting the best of the number anymore. So you kind of got to make your personal choice. Do you still believe that it's the right side, even though you're getting it at 3?
All right, Patriots +9.5. Again, odds provided by FanDuel. Mac Jones will play. High ankle sprain doesn't hurt him much because he doesn't move anyway. The reality of this is the Packers have scored 1 touchdown in the second half all year. Why? Because Aaron Rodgers, once he's off scripted plays to his young receivers, doesn't trust them. Once again last week, touchdown drive. They fumble, he loses trust, he packs it in. 9.5 points, it'll be low scoring, way too much. Patriots, sharp or square.
Oh my God, Colin, you just hit all the key phrases that every professional bettor is thinking about in this game. The number's too high. Aaron Rodgers' offense is not what it seems just because they beat on the Bucs. It's not that pretty. They're not playing that well. It's going to be a low-scoring game in which the Patriots will try to control the ball, keep it out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. A low-scoring game and a high spread are two things that if you're going to correlate them, you tie it to the underdog that is getting a lot of the points. This is a big pros-Joes game, meaning the pros are putting their money on the Patriots, and the Joes, the bettors, the average bettors, the square bettors, they're putting their money on the Packers. 100% sharp, Colin Cowherd.
All right, Cardinals getting +1.5 against Carolina. It's a much better roster. Arizona's fairly desperate. To quiet the critics, they need a W, or badly. I don't like Carolina. I feel like it's a pick 'em. They don't have much of a home field advantage. I'm going to roll here. Desperate in a good division for a win. Carolina's still rebuilding. Limitations, McCaffrey's health. I'm going to take Arizona plus the point, sharp or square.
Well, look, it's sharp only in so much as if you're going to have to make a play on this game, you're going to play Arizona, in a battle of two coaches that have probably the least respect of any coaches in the NFL from a wise guy point of view. Matt Rule probably has a little bit less respect than Cliff Kingsbury. If you're going to bet the Cardinals, you want to bet them before it gets into October and November when every coach has out-strategized and out-schemed Cliff Kingsbury and he hasn't figured out how to make any changes. They do have the better athletes. I was big on Baker going into the year. I thought this Carolina team could outperform expectations. He's been worse than he ever was in Cleveland. And I will say this. I completely agree with you about the fan base in Charlotte. I've got this theory. People hate me for it. Fan bases in Charlotte, fan bases in Jacksonville, fan bases in the AFC and NFC South teams, for the most part, there's no passion there. Like, I watched a lot of that Carolina game this past weekend, And I might as well have been watching a Royals-Tigers midday game because it was so quiet, right? So I agree with you. There is no home field advantage there. It's sharp, but I don't know why you'd want to bet it.
All right. Well,
There's better.
All right.
To me, there's so many better options on the board.
Okay, I'll throw this one at you. So basically, the Chiefs had a special teams meltdown. Extra points, field goals. It was a complete meltdown. The Colts can't score. I'm not giving up 3.5 points to anybody. It's an in-division rivalry game, and the Titans are totally desperate. I'm taking the 3.5. I'm taking Tennessee against the Colts. Sharp or square?
That's square. Now, the wise guys, this is another one. This is a corner TV game, and meaning this is the one the bookmakers are going to put on in the corner because they know they got to put it up because there are going to be 5 people that bet it, but no one really wants to pay attention to it. The Colts have probably one of the best rush defenses in the NFL right now. In fact, statistically, they're giving up the fewest yards per carry on the ground, 2.6 yards per carry on the ground. The Titans, when they are a one-dimensional passing team, that is a recipe for disaster. And right now, they're a one-dimensional passing team without any real proven weapons on the edges for Ryan Tannehill. Meanwhile, the Titans defense, 31st in allowing explosive plays. They are last and in the running game, last in the NFL in yards per carry. So the Colts, all of a sudden, they're at home, feeling a little bit better, getting a little bit better sense of what their scheme can be. Jonathan Taylor unleashed against the worst rushing defense in the NFL. And oh, by the way, the Colts may get Shaq Leonard back. They're playing great defense without their best defensive player. The wise guys are on the Colts here at -3.
Okay, so I don't want to take all underdogs because that looks like I'm just playing to just underdogs. I've got one more underdog I like. Rams plus the points, 1.5 at San Francisco. Trent Williams is out. Jimmy Garoppolo is a timing thrower. This means they're going to have to keep George Kittle in to block a lot. Takes away a weapon. They've already got Jalen Ramsey. He'll take away Brandon Ayuk or Debo, match him up singularly. Troy Hill, by the way, statistically, PFF is having a monster year. So they have 2 really good corners that match up. It's one of the few games McVay doesn't have a coaching advantage. But I'm sorry, I don't think home field matters here. It's in division. They play a lot. I'm taking the points. I think the Trent Williams injury is a huge issue for them. It forces them to keep Kittle in, makes him much less dynamic. I'm going to take the Rams plus the point, sharp or square.
So the Rams opened at 2.5 point underdogs. The wise guys liked it at 2.5. The number has come down to 1.5. This to me, and this from a wise guy point of view, you have a lot of challenges because you've lost the best of the number, and Kyle Shanahan, for all of his faults, of which he is proving to have many in certain situations, he dominates the Rams, right? Other than that title game, that NFC title game last year, that playoff game last year, he's generally dominated the Rams. So I think it's an interesting coaching matchup because I do think Shanahan has proven that he can do the right things against McVay's schemes. I'm waffling here because there is no consensus. Like at this number right now, the wise guys don't have a strong opinion one way or the other.
Here's my favorite pick. Anybody seen Jared Goff's numbers at home? They're like fantastic. And Seattle is bad on third down, bad throwing, 2 rookie tackles that are having, classic rookie tackle issues. Detroit scores a lot of points, a lot more at home. Goff's getting unbelievable protection. Amon-Ra St. Brown's banged up, didn't practice. But at 4.5, I'd swallow it. I think they win by a touchdown or more. I think Seattle played a great half of football against Denver. They haven't done anything since. I like Detroit to win and cover.
So interesting you're talking about this game. So as you mentioned, I host the favorites on the Volume Podcast Network. On Thursdays, we do a segment called Sharp Calls, in which professional bettors react to the conversations my co-host and I had on Tuesday.
Why don't you ever mention his name? He's very talented.
I mention him all the time. Simon Hunter. He's amazing.
It seems like you always gloss over his name. I'm not trying to start anything. You just gloss over it.
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, if I said constantly my wife and never mentioned Ann, I'd be like, that's suspicious. They're having problems.
No, I love Simon. I mentioned
Okay.
it. Dude, I made Simon a co-host of the podcast. We added his picture.
Now you're getting very defensive. There's something going on. Are you guys struggling? I'm such a dick. Sorry.
Oh my God, you're so annoying. Me and some other guy I do the podcast with, we get these calls from professional bettors. And the one game that they kept telling us we weren't talking enough about was the Seahawks and the Lions.
Who do they like?
They love the Seahawks. And I was like, really? They love the Seahawks. They love the Seahawks down to 3.5. The game was at 4.5. I'm as shocked as you are. So I think there's some analysis about Geno Smith that is being overlooked, that he's playing just much better than people expected. I think that, you're not going to often get running backs who have an impact on a team's power rating and on a point spread. But I do think with DeAndre Swift being out, he's the playmaker on that team. Amon-Ra St. Brown is great, and he's the guy that they can go to keep drives going. But DeAndre Swift breaks open huge plays and sort of tilts the game for them in a different way. So I think they're counting on that. And this defense is terrible. And so it's going to be hard for them to stop anybody. And I think that with the combination of Geno Smith playing better than they thought, the wise guys are betting the Seahawks right now.
I'm not going to bet this game, I don't think. Talk me into it. Raiders minus 2.5. So the number's telling you bet the Raiders. But here's my problem. And I do think they've lost 3 close games. Derek Carr's been fine. They've lost very close competitive games. But what worries me about the Broncos is that in that last series against San Francisco, a great defense, Russell's like, okay, I'm just going to take the offense over. I've been deferential to you. My gut says that last drive is Russell saying, listen, I tried to be a good soldier. I've got to win games. And I think that's the offense we're going to see from Denver now going forward. That's my feeling. So I like Denver. Am I wrong? Plus points?
Denver plus 2.5 is the spot here. And I agree with you 100%. Look, you and I, before the season began, we both loved Russell on the Broncos. We think this defense is amazing. It's proven to be amazing. I don't think we realized how over his head Nathaniel Hackett would be to start the year. And I am not a guy who says, oh, well, he sucks in the beginning, so he's not going to be able to grow into it. Everybody has their opportunity to do that. But I do think that what you saw at the end of that game was Russell Wilson being Russell Wilson. And against a Raiders team that just feels like it's in disarray right now, you're having team meetings, 3 weeks into it, man. That's a different conversation. So, yeah, I like the Broncos here at plus 2.5.
All right, finally, sharp or square, there's a game that you like and want to talk about. I haven't discussed, Chad Millman. I do hope you and Simon can patch it up, because I really like the synergy in the relationship. So work on it, go on a retreat or something. All right, what's your game?
Listen, me too. And I'll definitely relay to him that you're
My
concerned about
concerns?
everything. And your best wishes. You come on the show and we've loved having you. And I know you guys have gotten to know each other. So I'm excited about that. Not really. I'm totally jealous. But here's what I love.
All right.
Couple games this week. Jags plus 6.5 at the Eagles.
Boy, their defense up front, they got first-round linebackers everywhere. Trevor Lawrence has been great, but their front seven, that's top 5 in the league. It is good.
So you look at it from a personnel perspective. I'm looking at it from a market perspective, which is the bookmakers have not adjusted to how good the Jaguars are yet. It normally takes bookmakers, and I've talked about this with a lot of bookmakers, it takes them about a month before they can truly adjust their power ratings. You can't look at a team in week 1 or week 2 and say, oh my God, this team is better than I thought, and adjust their power ratings 3 or 4 points. Like, you have to gradually do it. It's like taking yourself off of some kind of drug, right? Like, you got to slowly detox. The market was already overvaluing the Eagles. They are the team that everybody loves in the NFC. So this line opened at 7. It moved down to 6.5. You look at FanDuel right now, the Jags are still plus 225 to win the AFC South. They're leading the division. The Colts are plus 100. Like, the Jags aren't even shortest in their division. The market is just not catching up, from my perspective, to how good this Jags team can be and how good they can be offensively. So I love the Jags this week. And there's another one. Well, there's two other ones, if you'll indulge me. The Texans plus 5 at home against the Chargers. I am always going to look to bet a home underdog. A home underdog of more than a field goal historically will pay out. A home underdog in which every game they've played, they've been competitive. And I'm getting a visiting team that has lost their left tackle in Rashawn Slater. They've lost their defensive end in Joey Bosa. Their playmaking quarterback is playing with 4 broken ribs. It's not like he's that much better this week, right? Those things take many, many weeks to heal. So to me, how am I not betting a decent-sized home underdog in this game? So those are two that I'm thinking about. I'm surprised you didn't bring either of those up.
Well, the Jags I have circled, I thought about it. Philadelphia at home. You talk about Jacksonville has an impassionate crowd or dispassionate crowd. Philadelphia at home is a handful. It's like a college crowd. It's a lot. And I think Jalen Hurts, Greg Cosell told me today, he's just got time to throw. It's a clean pocket, every drop. Everything's clean. It's hard to stop quarterbacks who feel no pressure on almost no snaps. So now the question is, do they create pressure? Which I'm telling you, the D-line of Jacksonville and the O-line of Philly, maybe the best unit matchup all week. Like, it's going to be unbelievable.